The rain pelted the cracked pavement of Willow Creek's main street. Each drop a tiny explosion in the quiet night. I stood frozen, my heart hammering, as Ethan Caldwell's smug grin burned through the downpour. "You'll never outrun me, Jamie," he taunted, his voice cutting sharper than the storm. We'd been enemies since we were kids, trading insults across the cul-de-sac of our suburban Oregon neighborhood. Ethan, with his golden hair and infuriating confidence, was the thorn in my side, always one-upping me whether it was bike races, math quizzes, or who could climb the tallest tree. Now, at 22, nothing had changed. Except tonight, under the flickering streetlight, I did something unthinkable. I kissed him. It wasn't planned. It was reckless, desperate, a wildfire bursting from years of pent-up frustration. We'd been arguing against something stupid about whose car was faster when his smirk pushed me over the edge. I grabbed his collar, yanked him close, and pressed my lips to his, expecting a fist or a shove. Instead, he froze, his breath hitching, and for one electric second, he kissed me back. I pulled away, my face burning, ready for his usual mockery. But Ethan just stared, his blue eyes wide, like I'd unraveled his entire world. "What the hell was that, Jamie?" he whispered, voice raw. I didn't answer. I turned and bolted into the rain, my sneakers splashing through puddles, his gaze searing my back. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the memory of my colossal mistake. I'd kissed Ethan Caldwell, my childhood rival, the guy who'd once swapped my lunch for a PB&J laced with hot sauce. I groaned, burying my face in my pillow, willing the world to erase last night. But Willow Creek was too small for hiding. By noon, I'd have to face him at the town's annual harvest festival, where we both volunteered. I dragged myself to the festival, the air thick with the scent of apple cider and fried dough. The fairgrounds buzzed with kids chasing balloons and locals swapping gossip. I was setting up the dunk tank when I felt Ethan's presence, like a storm cloud rolling in. Ethan leaned against a nearby booth, arms crossed, his leather jacket clinging to his frame. He wasn't smirking. That was new. "Jamie," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "We need to talk." "About what?" I snapped, tossing a baseball into the air and catching it. "Your car's still slower." He stepped closer, undeterred. "You know what?" His eyes locked on mine, and I swear, the festival noise faded to nothing. "You kissed me." My stomach flipped. "Yeah, to shut you up." "Worked, didn't it?" He didn't laugh, didn't fire back. Instead, he tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he'd never bothered to solve. "You're a terrible liar," he said, and damn if he wasn't right. My bravado was crumbling, and he was too close, his cologne mixing with the autumn air. I turned away, focusing on the dunk tank, but he followed, persistent as ever. For the rest of the day, Ethan was everywhere, handing out cider when I was at the booth, fixing a jammed Ferris wheel when I was nearby, watching me with that unnerving intensity, like a puppy trailing its owner. By evening, I was a mess of nerves, dodging his glances while my heart betrayed me with every beat. That night, I escaped to the old oak grove behind the fairgrounds, needing air, needing space. The trees loomed tall, their leaves whispering in the breeze. I sat on a gnarled root, replaying that kiss, hating how it lingered, his warmth, his hesitation, the way it felt like surrender. I wasn't supposed to feel this way about Ethan Caldwell. He was the enemy, the guy who'd made my childhood a battlefield. So why couldn't I stop thinking about him? Footsteps crunched behind me. I didn't need to turn to know it was him. "You're following me now?" I said, keeping my voice steady. Ethan sat beside me, uninvited, his knee brushing mine. "Maybe I am." He sounded different, less cocky, more human. "You gonna kiss me again to shut me up?" I snorted, but my pulse raced. "Don't tempt me." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. "What if I want you to?" My heart stopped. This wasn't the Ethan I knew, the one who'd mocked my braces or stolen my skateboard. This was someone new, someone who looked at me like I was more than a rival. I wanted to push him away, to keep the walls I'd built. But his eyes held mine, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability behind his bravado. "I'm not who you think I am, Jamie," he said quietly. "And maybe you're not who I thought either." The words hung between us, heavy with possibility. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to navigate this shift. All I knew was that the boy I'd hated for years was sitting inches away, and the air between us crackled with something dangerous, something alive. The oak grove felt smaller with Ethan so close, his words echoing in my head. I stood, needing distance, but he grabbed my wrist, gentle but firm. "Don't run, Jamie," he said, and the plea in his voice cracked something inside me. "I'm not running," I lied, yanking my hand free. But I was. I'd been running from him, from this, since last night's kiss. I paced the clearing, the moonlight filtering through the trees, casting shadows that danced like my thoughts. "Why are you doing this, Ethan? You've spent years making my life hell. Now what? You want to play nice?" He stood, his jaw tight. "You think I wanted to be that guy? The one always pushing your buttons?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. "I was a kid, Jamie. A dumb kid who didn't know how to deal with this." He gestured between us, his eyes searching mine. "Deal with what?" I snapped, but my voice wavered. I hated how he made me feel exposed, unsteady, like the ground was shifting beneath me. "You," he said simply. "You were always so, you. Fearless, stubborn, better than me at everything." I hated it. And I didn't. His voice dropped, raw and unguarded. I didn't know what it meant back then. I do now. My breath caught. Was he saying what I thought he was? I wanted to laugh it off, to call him out for messing with me. But the way he looked at me, a pen, almost scared, stopped me cold. This wasn't a game. Not anymore. The next week was torture. Ethan was relentless, showing up at my job at the local bookstore, lingering by the coffee shop where I grabbed my morning latte, even joining the same volunteer shifts at the community center. He didn't push, didn't taunt. He just existed, always nearby, his presence a constant hum in my veins. Every glance, every accidental brush of his hand, felt like a spark waiting to ignite. I tried to ignore it. I threw myself into work, into routine, anything to drown out the memory of his lips, the way his voice softened when he said my name. But Willow Creek was too small, and Ethan was too persistent. By Friday, I was unraveling. We ended up at the town's old drive-in theater, a relic from the 50s that still played classics on weekends. I was there with friends, sprawled on a blanket under the stars, when Ethan appeared, carrying a bucket of popcorn and a sheepish grin. "Room for one more?" he asked, and my friend Strader swayed him over. He sat beside me, too close, his shoulder grazing mine. The movie, some old rom-com, blurred into the background as I felt the weight of his presence. Halfway through, he leaned in, his voice low. "You're avoiding me." "I'm watching a movie," I muttered, eyes fixed on the screen. "You're freaking out," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Because of me." I turned, ready to snap, but his face was so close, his eyes so steady, that my words died. "What do you want, Ethan?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering. "I want a chance," he said finally, "to figure this out. Whatever this is." My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I wanted to say no, to protect myself from whatever chaos he'd bring. But the truth was, I was tired of fighting him, tired of fighting myself. Later that night, we ended up at the lake, the water still as glass under the moon. We sat on the dock, our feet dangling over the edge, the silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly his hand was in mine, his fingers warm and steady. "Tell me something real," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "No games." He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for years. "I was scared," he admitted. "Growing up here, being different. I saw how people talked, how they judged. So I hid. I picked fights with you because it was easier than admitting I noticed you. Really noticed you." I turned to him, my chest tight. "And now? Now I'm done hiding," he said, his voice steady but soft. "I like you, Jamie. I think I always have." The words hit like a wave, pulling me under. I wanted to believe him, but years of rivalry, of hurt, held me back. "You hurt me," I said, the truth spilling out. Every prank, every jab. It wasn't just a game to me. His face fell, guilt shadowing his eyes. "I know. And I'm sorry. I was an idiot, trying to push you away when all I wanted was to be close." I looked at him, really looked, and saw the boy I'd known my whole life, the one who'd challenged me, infuriated me, but also pushed me to be better. And maybe, just maybe, the one I'd been drawn to all along. /Xi artifact. Xi artifact artifactors for ID equals 0.1734299499415 F820 F371 F033C8. Artifact underscore 30 equals BB77 V679. Title equals I underscore kissed underscore my underscore arrogant underscore childhood underscore enemy underscore part 3. TXT content type equals text / markdown. The lake's quiet stretched around us, broken only by the soft lap of water against the dock. Ethan's hand was still in mine, and I didn't pull away. For the first time, I let myself feel the weight of his confession, the possibility of us. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. staring at the water. You and might's always been a fight. He squeezed my hand, his thumb tracing small circles. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe we can be something else. I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Willow Creek wasn't exactly a beacon of acceptance. I'd seen the looks, heard the whispers about others like us. Coming out here, especially with someone like Ethan Golden Boy, football star, felt like stepping into a storm. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments. Secret glances at the bookstore. Late-night drives where we'd talk about everything and nothing. A kiss in his car, parked under the stars, that left me dizzy and terrified. Ethan was patient, never pushing, but his presence was a constant reminder of what we could be and what we risked. Then it happened. At the town's winter festival, we got careless. We were laughing, sharing a hot chocolate, when I leaned in, brushing my lips against his cheek. It was quick, instinctive, but the gasp from a nearby vendor told me we'd been seen. By morning, the gossip had spread like wildfire. I felt the shift at work. Customers avoided my gaze. My boss, usually warm, was curt. At home, my parents asked pointed questions, their voices tight with worry. Ethan faced worse. His dad, a former coach with a temper, cornered him at home. I didn't know the details, only that Ethan showed up at my place that night, a bruise blooming on his cheek. He kicked me out, Ethan said, his voice hollow. We were in my room, the door locked, the world outside feeling like a threat. Told me I'm a disappointment. I reached for him, my fingers brushing the bruise. I'm sorry, I whispered, guilt twisting my gut. If I hadn't kissed him that night in the rain. Maybe. Don't. He cut me off, his eyes fierce. Don't you dare regret this. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to protect him, to fix this, but I didn't know how. So I did the only thing I could. I pulled him close, holding him as he shook, promising myself I'd be strong for both of us. The town turned colder after that. Friends drifted. Whispers followed us. But Ethan and I grew closer, our bond forged in the fire of rejection. We found refuge in small acts, holding hands in empty parking lots, stealing kisses in the oak grove, building a world where we could be us. One night, as snow dusted the streets, we sat in my car, the heater humming. Ethan turned to me, his eyes bright despite everything. I don't care what they think, he said. I choose you, Jamie. I'll always choose you. I kissed him then, slow and sure, pouring every unspoken fear and hope into it. When we pulled apart, I knew we'd face whatever came next together. Willow Creek might never fully accept us, but we'd carve out our own place, our own happiness. We started planning. College in Portland, a city where we could be open, free. We'd leave behind the small-town judgment, build a life where love didn't have to hide. It wouldn't be easy. Money was tight, and the world wasn't kind, but with Ethan beside me, I felt invincible. Years later, standing in our small Portland apartment, I watch Ethan hum as he cooks dinner, his hair still a mess of gold. We're not the boys we were, scarred by rivalry and fear. We're something stronger, something real. The world outside still has its battles, but here, in this moment, we've won. That kiss in the rain changed everything. It broke down walls, forced us to see each other, to see ourselves. It taught me that love can grow in the unlikeliest places, that even enemies can become home. And as Ethan turns, catching my eye with a smile that still makes my heart race, I know I'd do it all again.